Tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. Proud to be an American.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And like we say every week, we hope that we'll be your vehicle so that your voice will get heard today. I want to explain something to you. I know I must look like a cross between Quasimodo and Frankenstein or something. I cut myself shaving on the way to the studio, and I just could not quit it and make it quit bleeding. I finally did. Anyway, in lieu of the fact that Donald Trump takes office in about a week, I've come up with some inaugural quotes from the past, and I thought that would be appropriate, and I thought maybe we'd enjoy it and have some fun with it. The first one is, "Let us then, fellow citizens, unite with one heart and one mind. Let us restore to social intercourse that harmony and affection without which liberty and even life itself are but dreary things." Now, that was the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on his inaugural day, March 4th, 1801. And I came up with a bunch of these. I'm only going to read a few because we have Gary Miguel with us today, and in between commercials, we'll read some more. I'm going to read another one here. "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us serve on to finish all the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds." That was the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, on his inaugural day, March 4th, 1860. Much has been given us, and much will rightfully be expected from us. We have duties to others and duties to ourselves, and we cannot shirk neither. That was the 26th president of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, on his inaugural day, March 4th, 1905. Now I'm going to welcome my guest, Gary.
Ray.
I thought I'd do that today. We got a bunch of these, and have some fun with them.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them. I got about 4 or 5 more in between commercials and stuff. We'll do it. Well, Donald Trump's taking office here, buddy, in a week, as you so fondly reminded me. What do you think?
Well, first off, Ray, when I seen you walk in with that bandage on there, I figured you must have run into a liberal somewhere.
Thank you.
In fact,
I'm glad you brought that up. It keeps getting worse with these people. This guy on the subway in New York was wearing a hat, and a bunch of people jumped on him, and I don't mean to be racial about this, but the guy was white, they were black. These people need to grow up. I mean, I'm an American black.
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up too. That was your idea, and I'm proud of who I am. But I'm more proud of the fact that I'm American than anything,
Right.
And these people, like you and I have talked about, they need to appreciate what we have. They should go and live in a third world country for about 3 or 4 months, and they'd realize that we have it great over here.
Well, these people that are doing that, it's not because of Trump. It has nothing to do with Trump. It's just as a vehicle.
That's exactly it.
They don't know any more about Trump, the man on the moon.
No.
They don't watch TV. They don't
vote.
Well,
they don't do anything.
No, they're
but
not
yet
educated.
They're the ones that show up at these rallies and raise all the hell.
It's just an excuse, is all it is. And
I am sick of it.
They pick on Trump, and that is because the leadership, going all the way up to President Obama.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Their intent from the very beginning was to have it exactly the way it is to divide, not to come together. Because their interest is globalism. And that goes all the way up through above Obama, because that goes back to the Uniparty, which is the controlling thing, family of which we've gone over, the establishment. And these people are the billionaires, the old family. They've been there for years, and they pick a guy like Obama who they could put on a string, and they get somebody like Hillary Clinton.
And he was a puppet. He was a puppet. So would she have been a puppet?
Absolutely.
Right.
But boy, she'd be a good one for them.
Yeah.
Because she's crooked.
I am so glad we're not going to have to talk about her anymore. It's over.
Isn't that nice?
It's completely done.
Yeah.
You know, they're gone in a
Yep.
week. I am so happy about this, as I'm sure a lot of our audience are.
Well, they're going to
today.
be, they'll be forgotten quick. Other things will come down the road. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And there's been so much demonstrated already that Trump has done in the 2 months, I guess it is. That
it's amazing.
It is mind-boggling. I mean, I try to think about where we'll be in this, but he's way ahead of everything.
Yes.
And he's doing it the right way, and it's showing in the fact that what he has accomplished with the people that has to be changed.
Yeah.
You see, now if you notice, like for instance, he's getting his cabinet put together. Well, some people take a month after they're in.
Most of them, it's mid-March.
Right.
Even Ronald Reagan was
Right.
mid-March. I
Right.
mean, he's almost got his whole thing complete now.
Right,
you
and
know?
and he wants them to hit the deck running.
Yeah.
And I noticed how they prepared these candidates for their session with Congress and the Senate. I mean, and I noticed how he prepared them. I mean, those people went through a grueling, a couple hours a day of
I was watching it. Yeah.
of other people there, so it would be like that. What they go in there knowing in advance. Some of the questions were like, I mean, there was like 2,000 questions asked.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was that many.
And what they did is they set up. It looked just like a regular where the hearing is, and they set these people up by name, but they're carrying the name like Chuck Schumer. But okay, and those people now ask the questions that they think are going to be asked by Chuck Schumer, so that these people know in advance how to answer that.
Smart move. I'll be darned. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's just like they were
I
preparing.
did not know that, Gary.
It was like they were preparing for a play, and they were actors preparing for a play.
Yeah, and this is a
Well, these
rehearsal,
people-
yeah.
And I mean, even to the point they would have distraction, people coming in and out, and just so they'd feel comfortable when they got in there, what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
And they put them through their paces and asked who on the committee. And so, for instance, let's say that I was on the committee, I'd be somebody's name, you'd be on the committee, you'd be somebody. But then now we have a list of what is most apt to be asked, so that they have an advance notice as to what could be coming at them and how they answer. Then they're debriefed.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I mean they don't leave anything. I mean
That's
they don't
wonderful.
leave anything for error. I mean, and so these people are prepared when they go in there, and what's coming out, a lot of those people are asking what turns out to be embarrassing, stupid questions, and they look stupid now because they're not catching these guys,
Yes.
because these guys already are prepared for what it is. So they turn around and look like the nuts.
Yeah. I'm hoping everybody get confirmed. I think they will, don't you?
Yeah, I do too. And I got to thinking this. Well, if you're not going to confirm him, then who are you going to confirm?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, I mean, that's like saying, well, you got a pilot up there in the airplane, so you take him out, but you don't have anybody else put him in. I think that airplane's going to come down.
I think it is too. I don't want to be on it. Well, you and I talked about his road to where he is now, to become the president-elect. And it's just, if you go back and you think about over a year ago when those 18 or 19 people stood on that stage, and he overcame, and you brought this up in a few shows back, the fact that he had almost as big a fight against our party, the Republican
absolutely.
Party, as he
Every
did the
bit.
Democrats. And he overcame every single one of them to be the last man standing.
He overcame every one of them, which meant also overcoming an idea or a the way it's supposed to be, the way it has been.
Yeah.
Well, he had to change all that.
Sure he
it's
did.
like changing the culture. And what he did, he went to the American people. What he sensed correctly was the American people are a lot smarter than what these people think they are. And they're a lot more caring. They're a lot more patriotic. They're a lot more.
And he knew that all along.
And he knew
that all along.
So he appealed to that. And that's totally missed by both the Republican and Democrats as well as the press.
Yeah.
So they think they're the ones that know what we're supposed to think about, right? No, Trump went right to the American people and had faith in the American people. He didn't care what color you were or anything, did he? In fact, that's the last thing he thinks about. But he went to the American people and let the American people make the decision. What's he doing now? He's going direct to the American people every day on. If you go to
Every
Trump,
single
every single day
on Twitter.
he has no reason. Why is he going to go and then have it filtered?
Yeah, exactly.
But
I took your advice. I go and listen to what Trump says.
You see what he
and
says,
I hope
then go
everybody
from
does
there,
that.
and because you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. Now, what he did the other day, which hasn't been talked about that much yet, but it was totally brilliant, and he was going to those intelligence briefings, CIA, which that's highly secretive meetings. You have to have a top clearance and all that, right? Well, you're talking about the top secrets of the country.
Yeah.
And they have a meeting basically anytime. It sounds like every day or whatever. But what he found that he was going to those meetings and somebody, somewhere, was leaking what was being said in there, what he was saying.
I'll be.
Yeah. And, well, was it coming from, who was doing it? Where it was coming from? I mean, no one knew, It could be coming from, I don't know, somebody that wasn't with the FBI, which is what was, in fact, thought to be. But what was interesting, but Trump did this on his own. He had a briefing meeting, and he figured that maybe this was being leaked by somebody in the CIA itself.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right. Huge.
Yeah, very huge.
Okay, so he had an idea that may be the case, so he told no one. In other words, he didn't even tell his secretary, he didn't tell anyone. He went to that meeting, and he figured that anything that comes out that's now leaked has to come from there.
Yeah.
So when he did that, sure enough, there was a leak, what was said in that meeting, and there was only one place it could be, and that was the CIA.
Oh, my gosh.
You remember when they were supposed to have a meeting with Trump and they kept putting it off?
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
Okay, then who gets a hold of this stuff is, and it's all planned, because they're wanting to blame Russia, right? So who gets a hold of all this stuff is CNN. And
Of course.
yeah, and what's the name of that other? It's a blog.
Oh.
What's the name of that?
I know. It's slipping my mind right
too.
now.
But everybody knows what it is. Anyway, so that was CNN's undoing. And I'll tell you what, when they had that meeting, which was yesterday, his first press conference, and I forget how many days.
And he put that one guy down immediately.
CNN.
Yep, immediately.
Immediately stopped CNN in their tracks.
Yeah, I loved it.
And now,
now they want to criticize him for doing that.
Well,
it's all over the news this
well,
morning.
who does though? I mean, it's getting to where people, if you don't criticize them, if you're one of those that don't criticize them, then why pay any attention?
Well, I was watching Outnumbered this morning, and I always watch Fox early in the morning because it helps me with the show. And boy, they were on all. Of course, they're all on Donald Trump's side. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful show.
Well, what he did with that CIA thing, it was just totally unbelievable. And they even say, man, that was brilliant, a genius, and so forth. Well, this also works with the European, involvement there because of Russia. But guess who comes out of that thing absolutely with egg all over their face is CNN.
Sure.
Is that particular
blog. I wish I could think of that. It's on. Maybe we'll think of it on the break here.
And McCain and Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio are coming out like absolute jerks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well.
And so that's not going to help them.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not going to help their political
CNN
career at all.
It's history.
I mean, you'd think that they would by now look at how things are for their own sake and get on board,
Well, they're not. They're. I don't know. They seem to be more evil than smart.
Yeah, exactly. If I was in a position like Marco Rubio, or Lindsey Graham, any of those.
Well, how would you like to be in their position? Because this is what their position really is. They've got strings all attached all to them, and somebody's jerking.
Oh yeah,
and that's why they have to do what they do.
Yeah. You're right. It's those special interests still.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
and they
owe.
Oh
yeah, and they if they want to goddamn sing, they gotta. They got to do what they tell them to do.
Hang on, Gary. Yeah. I'm gonna read another quote, and we're gonna take another break here. And this is my fourth one, I think. And this is, let me get straight here. I can't see my own handwriting here because of the glare here. We're provincials, no longer. The tragic events of the 30 months of vital turmoil through which we have just passed have made us citizens of the world. There can be no turning back. Now, that was Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, on his quote on his inaugural day, and that was March 4th, 1917. I'm going to do one more. I just love these. I discovered these last night and this morning, and I just thought I'd share them with you. I know Gary likes them.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my fifth one. It says, "We have reached a higher degree of comfort and security than ever existed before in the history of the world." And that was Herbert Hoover, the 31st president, on his inaugural day, which was March 4th, 1929. I noticed that up until modern day times, the inauguration was always seemed to be on March 4th or 5th, and then
really?
they moved it back. I probably should, for the sake of history, look back and find out why they did that. There had to be a reason for that. Okay, this is one more before we take a break. "This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive, and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself."
Yeah.
Now, you were all familiar with that, and that, of course, is Franklin Delano Roosevelt on his inaugural day, and that was March 4th, 1933. Okay, we're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back and say 2 and 2. Back with Gary Miguel, and Gary's got some things to talk about, so I'm just going to kind of turn it over to him and let him say what needs to be said.
Well, first off, Ray, I wanted to point out that we have to realize that in the last, say, 50, 60 years, we've become a socialist nation.
Absolutely.
You mentioned some of the things you're going through right now as far as red tape. That was none of that was there back.
No, all these
ago,
regulations and all this stuff by the government.
That's the left wing, okay? And that, to me, is the socialists. They're the liberals. And they're just a total different group of people that think a different way.
Absolutely.
Who've been indoctrinated that way. Going back to grammar school, I'm talking about starting 50, 60 years ago.
Sure.
And now it's come to this point, which we were almost going to a full-blown communist style.
Had Hillary Clinton been elected. Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
now we go with that, and they'll ask questions that doesn't make any sense because a socialist might, to them it makes sense because they don't see people on their own, no free enterprise, anything. They think it's all just take from somebody.
Yeah.
And then they think they know what's best to do with it once they've taken it from you.
Exactly.
That's as simple as that. Okay, now anybody that's discussing what Trump is doing don't realize what he's doing. In order to be president of the United States, he agreed to give up his entire holdings that he's no longer an owner during this time frame.
That's a biggie. You think that's not
huge.
a biggie?
I mean, think about
my
it.
goodness.
I mean, he's given that up, and he doesn't have to.
It's like you and I said. He didn't want to do this. He didn't want to do this.
It's interesting that that it's even being discussed because when the country was first founded, and we had congressmen and senators and presidents, none of them campaigned. None of them wanted to be. Why? Because it took away from their work. They
were farmers. They were storekeepers.
Or they were bankers or whatever.
Yeah.
But it took away from them, and they did it as a duty.
Yeah.
Not to go get rich like it's become now.
Without pay, by the way.
And without pay. In fact, the Constitution doesn't say that you have to give up anything. Trump doesn't have to give up anything. In fact, if I was him, I think I would just say, hey, screw you guys.
Oh, I think I would
that.
too. I think I would too.
And so he's sitting there. Look what he's sacrificing for the American people.
He did this for the people. That's why I say we the people and Donald Trump.
Well, he feels like I'm the only one that can fix it. This thing's going to go downhill without it, which it would have without it.
You and I talked about that before.
It wouldn't have made any difference. Look at some of those screwballs that were running for president now, like Marco Rubio, as an example.
Yeah, perfect example.
And that Lindsey Graham for crying out loud. Or that Casey. What if you had him for president?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, you talk about a screwball deal. Now it's almost in.
Jeb Bush. There's another.
There's another one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what? How in the world were they going to do anything any different than what is being done?
They
now?
weren't. They were not.
Now the only one that would have made a difference would have been Hillary, because she'd have gone full blown communist style. You talk about regulations and loss of freedom.
Yeah.
She's hell bent for that.
Gary, we're going to take a break.
Sure.
I got a little problem here with my kid. We're going to take a break. We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for this. And two. Let me try to go back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do a quote, and then we're going to go back to Gary, and we're going to talk about things. I just love these inaugural quotes. I looked them up and found them last night. Okay. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty. That was the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, on his inaugural day, January 20th, 1961. I'm sure you remember that.
I remember that one.
I remember, the thing I remember about that, and this is an interesting story about that. His father, Joseph Kennedy, was... He had gotten in trouble on several occasions. He was the ambassador to England at the time, and when he went there, the first time he went there, I think, was Franklin Roosevelt was the president, and Joseph Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt were really good friends, and he appointed him as ambassador to England. Well, the first time the king came out, and the king and queen, he didn't stand up because he didn't believe that. He got in trouble over here in this country for not standing up or not saluting. He never ever stood up for anybody. The day that his son walked down to take president. His wife was just amazed at the fact that he stood up, and so was John Kennedy. They said John Kennedy did a double take. He couldn't believe it because he didn't expect his dad to stand up, but he did. I always thought that was an interesting
that's a good
piece
story.
of history. Yeah.
We were talking about Trump giving up a lot, and he wears it. Best way to put it, he wears a bulletproof vest for you and me. I mean, he is truly doing this for the American people, and it's coming out more and more all the time. In fact, some of his generosity that he's done in the past is starting to surface.
Yes, it is.
But you got to remember, though, that what's being lost by these, I'm going to call them, I'll just call them crooks. It's been there.
Great name for them. That's what they are.
And that goes for Republican and Democrat
Sure it does.
who are in that obviously are there to get rich.
Sure.
And they care less about
We've got a bunch of them in our party.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I look at that the same thing, and some of them, I don't know, maybe a lot of them voted for Hillary, and so I don't have any respect for that. But what Trump is doing is starting to come back and hit the people that have been hitting us most.
Exactly.
Who've been hurting the American people, and we're just seeing the surface. Because there's one area that I am familiar with, and I've mentioned it before, that was way back when. I'll just review it.
Good. Let's review
And that is that we have a Social Security program, which is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. Where has all the money gone that supposedly would go to Social Security? It's been robbed.
Yes.
Okay, and now we have people who are reaching retirement age having to have Social Security.
All the baby boomers, for instance.
All the baby boomers, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But what really irks me the most is the fact that I realize that they've been putting into the retirement all these years. You start off with a little bit, and you put retirement. And there has been a ripoff of that, and I see it.
Sure.
And that's when we talk about where people are pretty happy to get 7% on their retirement program. I don't care how much money they have in there. They're happy to get 7%. My question is, well, who got the other 93%?
Who got the other 93%?
And I'll tell you what, it's there. And I keep saying that's going to be something Trump's going to come in on.
Sure.
And I look at it and I say all these people that are now dependent on Social Security that had worked all these years and are now receiving a small retirement pension, and these people would have been so far better off if it hadn't been stolen. And I look at it as being stolen.
Exactly.
And I go back to when that first started, would have been probably in 50 years ago, something like that, maybe 60 years ago.
Yeah.
That's when it first started, and it's just been going like that ever since. And Trump knows that.
Sure he does.
And so there's going to be some heads roll. I mean,
he really does have so much to do, doesn't he?
Oh, he
There's
has a
just
tremendous amount to do.
He's
I mean,
trying
it's
to,
just
he's
it's
going
not
in,
one little thing. You know?
you talk about draining the swamp. I
Oh.
mean, he has got a ton of things to do because
Right.
this thing has been messed up, as you said, for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And Social Security is just one part of it.
That's just one part of it. That is just one part, but and it just goes on from there. But here's what he has done: he's surrounding himself
Oh, I know
with
it.
people that are the best there is,
Best cabinet I've ever heard of. It is an
and
outstanding
also
cabinet.
people that are coming in that aren't cabinet members but are coming on board. Excuse me, like Giuliani and people like that. And there's going to be a place for a lot of people, and he's bringing in the best.
He's bringing in the absolute best.
And he does expect these people to sacrifice.
Yeah, just like he is.
Not come in here to get rich, but to sacrifice.
Yeah.
If I call on like that Carl Icahn,
Yeah.
he tapped
Perfect
Carl
example,
Icahn.
yeah.
Come in here, Carl Icahn. I'm not taking any salary. I'm just going to do it because these are patriots that
Yeah.
are coming in, and that can get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing right now, and
Surrounding
that's
him-
what he had in his mind, and it's going to happen quick.
It is, and this is a win-win situation,
Right.
like you said. He's surrounded himself with all
Right.
these experts, man, who can run this country.
And what
together.
he's doing here, before he even gets it, he's cutting away at the impediment. He gets rid of that CNN. That's been nothing but a propaganda from day one of selling communism to young kids in school.
Absolutely.
And it goes right, and then they become professors. What do they sell? The same thing they learn.
Yeah.
So what he cuts them at the quick.
Yeah.
He's cut. You notice how he's cutting a lot of this stuff, or these people who thought for sure they were going to be around again with old Jeb Bush or somebody,
Oh, heck
or
yeah.
Hillary
oh,
Clinton.
yeah. Getting all that special interest
Oh
money.
yeah, get all that, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you, the people that we've talked about that too. I can't understand it. I mean, if you look at the inner city people, why in the world are those people in that kind of a condition and still vote for the people that put them there? My Lord, that's amazing to me.
I was going to do. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. I was going to open the show and say it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, because I was going to quote, and that we all know that's a quote from Charles Dickens' great
Right.
novel, A Tale of Two Cities. And I was going to explain, I got a tale of two cities, San Francisco and Chicago.
Right.
Do you realize that indigent, homeless people can go to San Francisco and get upwards of $300 a month? Just for existing. I mean, they fill out a few papers, and I think it may start around 2, but depending on what your situation is, you can get 300. And now there's an influx of people going to San Francisco.
Oh, I know.
Because they're going to get this free money. Who's paying for that? He's going to put a stop to that,
but-
I can guarantee.
Well, and then look what it does to the people. I mean, does it give them any hope or incentive to do anything? Of course
No.
not. It's just
you and I talked about
Yeah.
the welfare guy that's
Yeah.
making more money.
Right.
That he's unskilled. He's uneducated. He's not going to go out and get a job that pays him as much as welfare. So you can't really truly blame him. You got to blame the system that puts him
these
in that
people that are
position.
getting that are that are basically worthless living
Yeah.
in that deal. A lot of those people wouldn't be that way had it been different from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
They've been indoctrinated and so forth, and they've been sold. Okay.
Sure they have,
And
Gary.
and I look at it this way. And when they sold, they basically, I don't care if you're white or black, or because it's everybody now.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely it is,
Okay,
yeah.
it's and these people, it doesn't matter the difference because it's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they've been sold a bill of goods,
Sure they have.
and they've been sold the fact that they're not worth anything.
What's sad is it's 4 generations have been
And
sold.
there's no hope.
Goods,
There's no hope for you,
No.
and so forth. And so what they do is come in with these little baubles and beads, like we did the Indians, and they keep getting elected.
Sure.
And they get super rich.
Like you said on 2 or
Yeah.
3 shows ago,
Yeah.
every 4 years the liberals show up with
Right.
all their little
Right.
gifts and stuff, and you get their votes, and they don't hear from them for another 4 years.
It's a brainwashing like you can't believe. So they sit back and they go to these places like that. Like we talked about that sanctuary cities and stuff. Well, Trump's going to come to it's a lot of that stuff's going to come to a halt. But you can't change it in 60 days, what's been going on for 60 years. So
No.
it's going to take a long while, maybe even generations. But I look at the people that continue to perpetuate this themselves.
Sure.
Okay, give an example. Okay, we talked about this before. Slavery, okay, housing, food, and shelter. Same thing now.
Yeah.
Same thing now. Okay, now, that's what they're providing, that's what they're getting, and that's why they keep voting that way. You know, and so instead of one group of people at one time being slaves, now we have this huge homogenous group now that are slaves.
Isn't it ironic that we talk about this, and like you said, it's not just blacks, it's blacks, whites, and ever. But here we've got, I want to say this especially because we got an American black president, you know, that has done nothing to correct this, and he had all the opportunity. He had the opportunity to change a lot of this, he failed to do that. And that's because what you said, he's a puppet on a string for the elites.
Right. He had the opportunity, but he didn't have the intent.
Yeah, no, not at all.
His intention was exactly to divide, as even more so than it had ever been. Now, does he believe in that? Sure, he does. He's a Muslim. But then now that the elite had the perfect puppet.
Sure they did.
With somebody like him.
They were just waiting for Hillary so they'd have another puppet.
They'd have another one. And the American people be damned. I mean, you're talking about globalists with no borders. Think about we wouldn't be saluting the American flag. What would it be? A one world flag.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what she wanted.
That's what she wanted. One world. Yeah.
Adequately pointed out several shows ago.
So
we are so I am so happy with what's going to happen here in a week, with Donald Trump, because like Gary said, this is not an overnight thing.
No.
But we are going to see changes. We are already seeing changes, and the man has not even taken office yet.
Well, it's going to take a while for it to sink in, but I've noticed that there's a lot of people that maybe don't pay that much attention, or maybe probably could have been a Clinton voters at the beginning and all. They are changing. But
yes, they are.
But they're changing slowly. But nevertheless, they're changing. I mean, I see it when I go down to the coffee shop. It's just like 9 today, you know, and where it was a year ago, or a year and a half ago. But what's happening is that it takes a while for people to see that, and they start seeing the results. And like the other day, when he so much as took CNN, who was the only news media that receives government subsidy. Did you know that?
No, I did not. I'm glad. Please say
By
that
the
again.
hundreds of
I want
millions.
the people to hear this. Say that again.
Well,
Gary.
when
Know that.
CNN gets subsidized in the hundreds of millions because they go to these, their programming is for public service.
Sure.
So they get credited like public service. What do they think they're doing?
They do it under that guise, don't they?
Yeah, and it's being done in all the classrooms all over the United States. And what are they pumping out? Fake news.
Yeah, exactly.
They got caught with it. You think that was the first time they've ever had fake news? My God, they've been faking us for 60 years or whatever long.
And that's what he told this guy. He says, I'm not going to talk to you.
Right.
You're fake news. I loved it.
Yeah.
And they want to jump on him for telling the truth? My goodness.
Well, can you imagine CNN ever since that Ted Turner, we're going back to the 70s or 60s, they've been getting that subsidy, and they go and they put all that propaganda in all these schools, airports. Go to Dallas, you're going to see on the CNN.
Oh, yeah.
CNN.
Oh, yeah.
CNN.
You see it all. You see it everywhere.
Go to motels, CNN.
You don't see Fox.
No.
You don't see Fox. You see CNN. Absolutely.
And they're being subsidized. You think Trump's going to put up with that?
No. That's going to be one of the things
Those
that's going to
people are
squash
going
real
downhill.
fast.
I mean, you talk about that's a communist news network.
First of all,
that's what that C stands for in reality.
He's not going to stand for it. He's been a victim of it.
Of course he has.
So he is definitely going to squash that.
He's been a victim of it, which means that we all have been a victim of it.
We have all been a victim. Absolutely.
You see, so it's not just one, because obviously there's a lot of people who believe that this country was in a horrible condition, needed to be, and thank God Donald Trump came along, who was willing to give up that 275-foot yacht, that 757. He could travel all over, play golf, and do all that stuff, and give up his company. He's turned that company over. He doesn't even have to do that by law, but he did it anyway.
You know, what an unbelievable sacrifice. This man did not even, like you and I said, he looked around, he couldn't find anybody else to do it, so he thought, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to do it.
Well, then here's the thing you start doing. You start looking at the left for how ridiculous those people are and how evil they are in terms of what they had planned for us. And I'm talking about these news reporters and so forth with CNN that puts out this false deal. They know it's false, and they put it out.
Anyway, yeah.
I mean, that should be criminal.
It is criminal, I think.
Well, it should be. I mean, they're putting out false information. And they're not responsible for it.
You know, they need to be held accountable, and they're not.
And they're not. They're not. And so Trump has laid into them, and people are taking notice. And there's a lot of people that I talk to that don't even watch any of that news anymore. They don't watch CNN or MSM. And
I'm
none
one of
that.
them.
And,
I
well,
do
and
not
me
watch
too.
CNN. I don't. You know, I used to read the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
I read the New York Times because, well, Sandra takes the New York Times, and you know, she's just such a wonderful lady. I mean, she'll call me in the middle of the night and said, "You got to look at this. You got to look at this. This is great for the show." You know, and so she helps me out all the time with that kind of thing. But her son gave her a subscription online to New York Times, so she sends me fun stuff. You know, she won't send me the political things because she knows, but she sends me fun stuff from that. But other than that, I don't want to read the Wall Street Journal anymore. I don't want to read the New York Times, the Boston Globe, all these liberal people.
Well, Ray, they got on the internet now. I found a couple great. One of them in particular. It's called Last Refuge.
Last Refuge.
Yeah,
Okay.
and but then I go to those sites. You know, there's of course you start with Trump because he only says 140 words. You know.
Yeah, that's all he could say.
And then you go to Breitbart and Drudge.
Dredge, yeah.
And then this Last Refuge is excellent. Man, they got some sharp
I've heard,
people on
I've
that.
heard, and I've only looked at that a couple of
And
times.
then
I'm gonna start
another
looking
one
at it more
that's good
regularly.
is Truth Feed.
What is it?
It's called Truth Feed.
Now that one I haven't heard of.
Oh man,
Truth Feed.
I'll give you an example. Like say the shows have all these clips and videos, and you say, "Man, I don't want to listen to that whole show." You know, go through, have to listen to Juan Williams or listen to Geraldo or something. So
Yeah.
what they do, they got the clips on there, and you just go
Oh, that's
of
yeah.
all these shows, so you can go to that Truth Feed and just watch pretty much anything that's on. You know, and you can eliminate the stuff that's just absolutely.
Lou Dobbs is another good one, isn't he?
Oh, he's fabulous.
I love Lou Dobbs.
In fact, I think more and more people. I heard this the other day. He's number one because everybody I talk to is the same thing. Lou Dobbs. Lou
Oh,
Dobbs.
yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
number one. You know, and so another one that's great is this Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just started.
He
I
just
like
started,
him.
but I seen him years ago.
Oh,
and I
did
thought,
you?
yeah, it was years ago, and I thought, man, that guy's going to do something someday. You know, he was
where's
just
that?
a teenager then. You know. And look what he's done. It's great, and I think that he's been a big add-on.
Now he took. Did he not take Megan Kelly's place?
You notice how she folded like a cheap tent.
Oh yeah, she did.
Ever
I like
since-
that term. Yeah.
Ever since she
Jumped on Trump.
on that
and Newt Gingrich.
and from that point on, she just slowly
Sure she
eroded and go out into the dust. Isn't
Sure
that
she
something?
did. The last few shows, and I was watching her every week because she preceded Hannity, and then I watch Hannity, and then O'Reilly. But I'd watch her show and then Hannity every night, every single night. And I did notice that, Gary. I noticed that she started to fit. The last 4 or 5 shows, all she did was promote her book practically.
Yeah.
She talked 90% was her book.
Yeah, she's history now. They got her in some obscure time zone where she went to. I think she went to, I don't know, NBC or somebody.
Yes,
like that.
I think she did.
Yeah, they'll
go to
bury her
NBC.
in the dust there, but
Yeah.
she's already been buried.
Yeah.
But and people just see through it, and what it is, they become enlightened. Mm-hmm. So now that opens your eyes to that. Well, now you see something that you hadn't been looking at
Sure.
before, or
Sure.
seen before.
I've done that just since
Yeah.
I've known you.
Yeah.
I've become enlightened. Every time this man comes on the show, he enlightens me, and I'm sure he enlightens you. I just love having him on here.
But that's you start seeing something that you said, my God, that was there all along, but I just never saw it. Now I see it. And this is happening at an exponential rate. But I think, I don't know, I keep coming back to that on this show, but boy, I'll tell you, one of the most brilliant things was how Trump totally destroyed CNN. What was that, yesterday? Or
Oh,
day
yeah,
before?
with that reporter, I loved it.
And how it wasn't just that, it was how he got the information that was necessary, and he didn't rely on anyone but himself.
That's right.
And he was afraid to say anything to anyone, period, including for over 20 years, his right-hand gal that does their scheduling and all that. He just showed up there without anybody knowing. So he knew that when he left her, there was only one way that any
Yes.
information that was leaked, it had to come from the CIA.
Yeah.
And when he found that out, you notice how all of a sudden appointments got canceled.
Sure.
They were being put off and so forth. And then when they come down there, that press come down there, was that yesterday?
Yesterday,
Whatever.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, he come down there. Well, there was CNN. They had been exposed they were wide open, and Trump just instead of trying to, no, he just disregarded them. Made them totally irrelevant and not necessary at all. For
Absolutely.
You. And just,
good point.
boom,
Not necessary.
Not necessary at all. So then he had these others, and he talked with them. He did talk to a CNN guy or gal, but he just said, and they weren't expecting it. They thought they were all going to find out, well, who gets to sit here and who sits there. He didn't care about any of that stuff.
No.
He just went right to it, and he got the CIA, and he was with that phony news or fake news.
Fake news, he called it himself. That's was his word.
And there went CNN down the tubes, as well they should have been.
Sure.
In fact, it should have been criminal.
Yeah.
What they did. And
I agree with you. I think it should have been criminal.
well, it should have been, but you got the free press. I don't know. That gets
you a lot of leeway,
and
they use it.
a lot of leeway. But and he said, I noticed this. He said, well, there's and that's why he's getting Giuliani. There's too much hacking, everything. And he mentioned like this, China and Russia and let's see, I don't know. He named another couple other countries that were been hacking us.
I think North Korea might have been.
Yeah, North Korea, and even London or somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all hacking, right?
Yeah.
So he mentioned. I noticed today. What did a CNN? They take out of that statement and say Russia. They weren't willing to give up yet.
Oh no!
See, they were trying to pin all this on Russia.
Yeah, they've been doing that ever
and
since.
That was all false deal. So to discredit Trump, instead of discrediting Trump, it discredited themselves.
It turned on
And
them.
it made interesting. Obama's farewell speech. Did anybody watch it? Absolutely not.
Sandra called me. She said, "I know you're not going to watch that." I said, "You're right. I'm not."
Yeah, nobody watched because Trump had center stage with this deal that he did on the CNN. So, what did they talk about that night? Did anybody talk about Obama's farewell speech?
I haven't heard
the
anybody
whole
talking about
conversation was all about how Trump nailed them people.
Yeah.
See how he did that.
Who in the world cares about his farewell speech? We just want him gone.
Well, that's
Done,
it.
Of
course, that had a lot to do why nobody paid attention. But I mean, I thought how Trump was. The media would have talked that night. Like they would have had nothing else to talk about but his farewell speech. I'm not saying you care to hear about it or not. That's what they would have talked about. But they didn't. They talked about what was going on with Trump and CNN and that. So
it's amazing. Hannity said.
Yeah.
Weeks ago or months ago, he said journalism is dead and has been dead, and CNN helped destroy it.
Oh, of course,
helped kill it.
Well, CNN is getting what they have coming to them,
Sure
but
they
I
are.
don't think they expect it to be quite this severe.
Oh no! Well, look, they've been getting away with it for years.
Oh my God!
What have they? They've been existed for what? 25 years, something like that.
Yeah, Ted Turner started that back. Hanoi Jane,
Yeah.
But and it was brilliant what he did. Of course, he had a lot of money at the time.
Well, sure he did.
And that's okay. He did something.
You never
with it.
hear from him anymore, do
No,
you?
he doesn't. He's an ultra liberal though.
Oh, I know he is.
But anyway, at CNN is it stands for whatever you at C is, know. And what's happening now? Their credibility just went down to nothing. And here their whole game plan. And John McCain, that's another one I want to talk about. A lot of people don't understand. But John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, all of them were trying to discredit Trump's presidency.
Oh, absolutely.
And delegitimize it
Sure.
in the minds of everybody. And just the opposite happened. In fact, he went up because of what happened.
All they did was they did him a favor.
And they did him a favor and did themselves a disfavor.
And Sandra mentioned this not too long ago about, and I told her that McCain had started to. It looked like McCain was going to get. He never got on board. He hasn't, has he?
He never did get on board. Let me tell you what else about McCain. And my brother-in-law was in a squadron in the Navy with him. And McCain was a horrible, horrible pilot.
Is that right?
And the only
you would
reason,
know because
and the only reason he was a pilot was because of his dad or somebody that was an admiral or something, and had gone up. But I'm going to put it to you. I think this will explain it. He was lucky he got shot down and captured. Otherwise, he'd have killed himself.
As a pilot.
You bet.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I look at it.
Yeah.
He ought to thank God he got captured. Otherwise, he'd been dead.
Dead. Yeah.
Because he was horrible.
Well, Sandra's question to me was that, or statement to me was, he must have a really conflict with his daughter, and he must. I mean, you watch her on Outnumbered; they're totally opposite. She's a conservative Republican, but she doesn't. She never, of course, speaks about her father. She wouldn't.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, I respect her for that.
I do too. I really do.
The thing is that when he was there, I had some friends of mine that was in Hanoi at the same time he was. You asked them about John McCain. Mm-hmm. You better stand back and give that guy some room. Mm-hmm. Because they don't like John McCain, and neither did anybody in his squadron. And this is before John McCain was ever anything but. I've heard about him when he was prisoner.
Yeah. Long before he became a senator.
He wrecked, I don't know how many airplanes. He crashed, I think, 3 or 4 of them.
Are you kidding?
He was horrible. And he was going to get somebody killed.
And himself. You're right. He's
and
lucky
that's why,
that he did.
Yeah, they weren't sad when John McCain didn't come back. Let's put it that way. When they said he was
So a lot of
shot
what
out.
Donald Trump said, they jumped on him because he said he was not a hero. Well,
he's not a hero.
He's not.
He's the opposite of a hero. Yeah. And Trump was right, but what are you going to do?
Oh yeah, they're going to jump on this guy. Was captured? He was in
John McCain's no more a hero than my God. He got captured and he got knocked down because he couldn't fly worth a damn. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not saying all of them got knocked down. Were the ones that couldn't fly. I'm saying John McCain did.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm not saying all, man. There were some fabulous sticks out there that got knocked down. That could happen to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying for John McCain's, that's the reason.
Oh my gosh.
He was horrible.
Gary, I'm going to do another quote. We're going to take a break. Let me do the quote here. Let me find it. Which one? Okay. In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. That, of course, was the 40th President of the United States and my favorite, Ronald Reagan. And that was on his inaugural day back in January 20th, 1981. And my final one here, and this will probably be a surprise. It was a surprise to me, believe me, but it's a great quote. There's nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. Now that hits home to me. It was that was the 42nd president, Bill Clinton, who said that. And that was on his inaugural day back in January 20th, 1993. I hope you enjoyed these. I hope you got a lot out of them. And if there's anyone out there that would like to call in, the number will appear on the screen. We're live now. If you talk to me later, it'll probably be a rebroadcast. But if you've got some inaugural quotes, that's what we're doing today along with Gary. And we're trying to get you as much information as we can. So we're going to take a little break now, and we'll be back in, say, 2 and 2. Back with Gary, and first thing I got to do is ask him to come back.
Thank you, Ray. We'll do it.
We're going to have him back next week. In fact, this always happens when Gary's on. We start talking, we start having fun, trying to convey to you as much information as we can, and all of a sudden we're out of time. Well, that's happened. So I'd like to do what I do every week, and that's honor our law enforcement officers. And one of the best ways to do that, ladies and gentlemen, is when you see one. Maybe he's getting gas at a gas station. Maybe he's just parked somewhere. Maybe he's in a restaurant. I'm telling you, go up and disturb him. He will not... He will like it. Go up and disturb him and tell him how much we appreciate him. I think we've got to do that, and we've got to do it, all of us. And I follow through on that. I told an officer yesterday that I asked my audience to do it, so I've got to do it too. So I try to do it as often as I can, every time I see one. So let's all do that. Let's appreciate our Fresno police, and if you're in other cities, do the same thing. So until we meet joyously again next Thursday, heaven's blessings.